Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the content subject or content-based classes for 2017 for the subject of Life Orientation Life Skills 1. My name is Mr. Thaddeus Shikukuma, and I will be taking you through this. First of all, I would like to take you through what we call the verbs, the action verbs. Action verbs are to be found in your module at the very beginning of the module, and these action verbs help you to deal with the question, because once you have a clear understanding of the meaning of the action verbs, it will not be a struggle for you to deal or to tackle any question that might come your way. So you should get a deeper and a clear understanding of each of the action verb, because in this way, you will be able to deal with the questions, you'll be able to handle the questions because you have a clear understanding. Because, most of the time people misfire. They answer they describe instead of explaining, or they define instead of distinguishing. So these are the clarities that you need to master for you to deal with the questions that are asked, either in assignments or in examination. So as I have indicated earlier, these verbs are to be found in your books. Every time you go at the very beginning of your module and you go through these modules, just for you to master and understand what each of the verbs mean. Let's look at the word analyze. Should you be asked to analyze, then you know what you are going to do. You are actually going to examine information in more detail, so that your answer should give or should present more information in detail of that particular aspect. Calculate. Usually it might not happen in a subject like life orientation, life skills. But should it come, then you know what you are expected to do is to give a numerical answer from the figures that are provided or that are given already. So these ones can also be common. Comment, the verb comment, the action verb comment. This simply means that you should discuss briefly by giving positive as well as negative points on that particular aspect. Compare. When you are comparing, when you're doing the comparison, you draw a conclusion about similarities and differences. I repeat, similarities and differences. So you should come to the conclusion. You should provide your conclusion based on that if you are asked to compare or to make comparisons. Contrast. Here you are only looking at the similarities. So that's what the verb requires you to do. While criticize, you give reasonable judgment after weighing facts carefully. So you look at the facts and then you weigh them. Then is when you come to the judgment, your own judgment, based on what your analysis is on, because you are trying to weigh the facts. Demonstrate. When you are demonstrating, you show by examples. Whatever is that you are doing, you must provide examples. While describing, if you are asked to describe, this is also one of the popular question or the popular verb that's used to draft a question. So this is you should now provide detailed features for and against. Most of the time you look at two different aspects, for and against, but you have to provide the detailed features. Determine. Use provided information to work out the answers. You must use provided information in order to work out answers. So it's already given. Now getting to the conclusion or getting to the end or getting to the answers. So the question can say determine. So you must know what is required from you in this instance. Excuse me. Distinguish. This is also one of the popular questions that might come in examination, or the popular verb, action verb that might come in examination. So, describe two phenomena, query giving differences of the two. So, you are looking at two phenomena. So you must give the description of these two phenomena, and then you must give the difference. What are the difference between the two phenomena that are given? So that's what we mean by distinguish. So please bear in mind. Estimate, you give the impact of something. If you're estimating, give impact of something. Evaluate. Evaluate is also one of the popular verbs that normally comes in examination. So if you are required to evaluate, then you determine the value of something as per a set criteria. You must determine the value of something as the criteria that are provided. Okay, we are moving on with the action verbs, and we look at the word explain. This, in any examination, there's no way it will not come. This verb, there's no way it cannot be used. It's a must. So therefore, if you are required to explain, then definitely what you are going to do is to describe by indicating the relationships between things. What are the relationships between things? So this is what you have to describe when the question comes with the verb explain. Find. Actually, here, yes, what you're simply doing is to calculate or measure or determine, for that matter. While identify, should a question comes with that action verb, identify, then what you're simply going to do is to recognize and name. Okay, we move on with the verbs, the action verbs. Illustrate. You describe with examples. You are giving the descriptions, and there should be examples. That's what we mean by illustrate. If the question comes and there is an action verb that says illustrate, then that's what you are going to do. That's what you are required to do. Interpret. If you are interpreting something, so you describe something, explain the meaning, most of the time of graphical information. But it can also come without graphical information, just to give your interpretation on what do you think is that. Examine. When you are examining something, of course, you are identifying detailed features of something. So the features in details, you come to the bottom of that. And if you have the verb list, you simply present a list of facts, of names, of objects, etc. We continue with the verbs, and then we have our outline, the verb, the action verb outline. This means give an overview and indicate the main features. An overview. You present an overview, and of course, you don't have to leave out the main features. And if you are asked to summarize, you focus on main ideas without examples, because you are just focusing on that particular items. And then deduce, use the information provided in order to draw to the conclusion. And also the verb, the action verb, define. This is also a must in any examination or assignment. Here, what you are required to do, you are required to give precise, brief meaning, brief, underline the word brief, meaning and features. So which means that you don't have to talk more or to write more, but you are simply focusing on the brief meaning of that particular item. Now we will go into the presentation in details. Please take note that the presentation that I'm going to give to you, it does not necessarily mean that this is inside out or copy and paste of what will be in examination. So as a student doing life orientation, life skills 1, or LOLS1 in short, you must be able to know all the main objectives or the objectives of each unit. If you know if you have mastered the objectives of all the units in your guide, and you have also consulted some other sources like the internet or some other books that are given as a reference in your module, then definitely you are going to master this. Remember, we are not only studying to get the qualifications or to work in a graduation gown. But what we are striving for is to get the skills and the necessary knowledge that we are going to implement once we get back in a classroom. And the subjects like life orientation, life skills, these are somehow general. You can utilize the knowledge in your community as a community, a responsible citizen, community member of your country. So you have to unpack all the necessary sources just to equip yourself with the necessary information that you can utilize in your daily-to-day activities, not only in the classroom or in the school environment, but also in your community, in also the committees that you might serve as a responsible citizen of the motherland. Okay, now we have the word define. I have spoken about define already. Define religion. Most of the students, they want to copy and paste, and that's basically all. First of all, you should have your own, you should read what is provided, and out of that you build your own understanding of different aspects or different terms of different phenomena. Let's look at the word define, the word religion. You go to your book, you understand what religion is. When it comes to examination, you use your own definition as long as it does not go away from the original meaning of the word religion. Okay, so the next one says, explain the role of religion in a society. We have different religions in our societies. What are the roles of those religions in society? So you must get an understanding of that. Sometimes you observe what is happening in your society, in your community, in your surrounding, and now you bring in the element of religion. What purpose does it serve? You must get to the core understanding of this particular word and its role in the society. So you should be able to explain. Discuss humanness and how we differ from animals. You make that comparisons. We are human and they are animals. Are we the same? What are the differences? What are the similarities? Perhaps there are similarities, there are differences. That's what you need to spot out. But this is two-way obvious. But anyway, if you read your modules, you will be able to detect and understand this. But as I said, don't be limited to the modules that are given to you, that at your disposal. There are many sources. Visit the library, go to the internet, see what is available in your community, because I know some of you are living in rural areas, others are living in towns, some are access to the internet, some are not, but as a student, you must go extra miles to make sure that you update yourself and you acquire the necessary knowledge. Okay, describe the value incorporated into the Namibian laws. We are talking about the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia. As a student of this subject, you must read and update yourself. Don't say, no, but this one, it cannot be found in my module. It's your duty and responsibility as a student to make sure that you acquire the necessary sources that are going to help you to excel. So like in this case, you must be able to gather information, like acquiring or getting access to the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia so that you can have a better understanding and deal with questions of this nature. Discuss value issues, for example, sex before marriage. These are things that are happening in our society and we know. And also as a student of life orientation, life skills, you must, these are the things that you teach to the learners in the class or to your kids at home. Sex before marriage, value issues. What is connected to that? We talk about rape. What damage does it do to an individual, and how better can we address these issues or avoid these kind of issues? Education, of course, educating the people, the young ones, how to take care of themselves, not to get closer to this risk of getting raped and stuff like that. We talk about physical abuse, for example. We talk about, gender-based violence. It's rampant in our society and it's happening on a daily basis. So people need education. As a teacher, you equip yourself so that you can carry out this noble activity or noble duty, just to make sure that education has taken place. We continue with the presentation, ladies and gentlemen, and we move on with the action verb explain. Explain why it's important to express own opinion. In an African culture, children are told that they should be, they should not be heard. They can only be seen but not be heard. Like they are not allowed to express their opinions. But we are living in the world of democracy and it's 21st century. So they should be taught why it's important to express own opinion. The kids must be taught. And it's your duty as a teacher to make sure that the children are taught how to express their opinions. However, an emphasis must also be made that whenever somebody is expressing an opinion, they must not harm others. They must not trespass and express their opinion in order to harm and hurt others in the process. So it's your duty now to do that as a teacher. So please get this information and then equip yourself so that you'll be able to tackle questions in the exam. Explain why living according to norms and values or laws are essential. Why is it very important? As a law-abiding citizen, why should you live according to norms? There are issues connected to this. There are consequences if somebody does not do that. Why is it very important? We have to avoid a lot of things. Jail, being get involved into criminal activities and to be prosecuted by the law. So there are a lot of things that are involved. Please go back to your module and equip yourself with this information so that you'll be able to tackle questions of this nature. Explain the negative consequences of ignoring values and laws. This is what I have just spoken about. What are the consequences? First of all, why is it important? And then the consequences that might come if somebody does not do that, if you don't abide by the law. And discuss the importance of norms and values in our lives. Why are they important? We talk about norms, things that should be done, because there are things that are done the way they are done because there are reasons why should they be done that way. Okay? Why is it important? Values. We are living human beings. We should live according to certain values that we are associated with in our societies. We continue with the presentation and we are going to have a look at now the features. It's explain the features of positive emotional intelligence behavior. So this, as a student of life orientation, life skills, you need to read some theories and equip yourself when it comes to these features of positive emotional intelligence, because these behaviors are connected to some theories. And who are these philosophers? You must equip yourself with this information. Explain how to effectively express emotions. We all go through emotions, but do we react negatively or positively on this? So now you should be able to explain how to effectively express emotions that you as an individual go through. Define conflict and discuss main reasons for conflict. Conflict can come in two different forms. It can be at school, conflict between teachers and the principal, head of department, learners, parents, the ministry at large. First of all, you must give the definition and discuss the main reasons. What brings it? You should understand it. You should understand what brings a conflict. And discuss the different attitudes among people. People have different attitudes. We cannot have the same attitudes. Our reaction towards things that are happening around us are not the same. So they come in different ways. So now you should be able to discard the different attitudes among people. You should also be able to explain the effects of negative behavior and how to promote positive social behavior. As teachers, when it comes to the classroom, When it comes to the classroom, we have learners of different behaviors or different attitudes. Some have positive behavior, some have negative behavior. But in any case, we want to turn negative behavior into positive behavior, because negative behavior do have certain effects. So now, how do we go about promoting positive and positive social behavior, just to make sure that it happens? Not only in our learners at school, can also be with our colleagues at work, teachers, fellow teachers, parents, etc. So the effects now, you look at the effects of negative behavior, and now is our mission as teachers. How do we turn, or how do we promote positive social behavior from negative? We go on, since this subject also touches on the issues of religious, you must be able to explain the meaning of the Passover celebration. Christians, most of the Christians respect this, because the Passover is one of the events that happen in the Bible, and is connected to what happened in Egypt as far as the Bible is concerned. So which means that you must also be able, as a student, even though it's not your religion, maybe you are not a Christian, you must read perhaps the Quran. You must also read the Bible, just to equip yourself, and just getting an understanding. It does not transform you being a Christian if you are a Muslim, for example. It does not transfer you to be a Muslim if you are a Christian, and vice versa. But just to equip yourself and understand, because we are living in a multicultural society, and as teachers we are teaching learners from different region background. But if you have an understanding of all of this, then you'll be able to handle your class as a teacher who's teaching in a multicultural society. As a teacher, these days we are talking about HIV/AIDS. It's not saturated. The topic is not saturated yet, since we are still experiencing issues of HIV/AIDS. It's not it's not combated yet. It's still living with us. So these other topics, though they can be sensitive at times, as a teacher of a subject, for example, life orientation in school, you should get to the bottom of this and understand it. Then you'll be able to still educate the people on the issues of HIV/AIDS. And also in examination, you must be able to handle questions that are related to this. We cannot abandon it, because HIV/AIDS is living with us. We are living with the virus. So therefore, you should still update yourself and get the recent information as far as HIV and AIDS is concerned. So in this case, discuss. Remember, the action verb here is discuss. You'll be able to discuss the prevention of getting HIV/AIDS. Because, you cannot say, no, it has been spoken enough. What about the young ones that are just being born, that are just not sure, they are not aware of the virus? They must get the education, but as a teacher, you must now update yourself with the recent information, with the recent development when it comes to HIV/AIDS. Then you'll be able to pass on the knowledge, which will be passed from generation to generation, just to make sure that everybody have a clear understanding of this virus. Explain how to manage your personal finances. Today we are talking about budget cuts. in all the organizations, in all the institutions. We are talking about budget cuts in the government, in the private sector, etc. So now, as I have indicated, also in this aspect, you must get updated with the recent information, recent development of what is happening, so that you'll be able to know also how to manage your own personal finances as an individual. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this presentation. I would like to urge you to please prepare thoroughly for examination. It's very, very important. You must revise all the units, and once more, go back to the verbs. The verbs are the keys for you to answer or to handle any question. You have to go back to the verbs, so the action verbs that I have alluded to at the very beginning of this presentation. And you should have a clear understanding of each verb. Do not define if the question requires you to explain. Do not describe if the question is asking you to distinguish. So you must understand these verbs, because only through these verbs that you'll be able to tackle the question, that any question that might come your way. Please utilize the experience as a teacher, as a head of department, as a principal, as somebody who is just studying, and the information you have, that you have required, or that you have acquired from the modules, from internet, etc. Utilize it in order to respond to the questions. I would like to give you a stern warning. Please do not leave any question unattended. There's no difficult question unless you have not attempted it. So please, I'm speaking from experience, because assignments you find out there are unattended questions. Exam you find out there are unattended questions. So try to attempt any question that might come in examination, regardless of its nature. I also like to advise you to consult other materials for knowledge update. I have spoken about internet. I have spoken about visiting the library. I have spoken about, just communicating with your fellow colleagues. I was so impressed by some students that have joined, or that have created a WhatsApp group where they share the information on different questions. These are the platforms, if you are accessible to that. But remember, we are living in the 21st century. You are supposed to, make an effort just to make sure that you update yourself. All the best of luck. My mobiles are 0811480977 and 0812531801. You might call me, but please adhere to the time that you can call me. Is between 8 in the morning up to 5 in the afternoon. The only weekdays you should not please call on Saturdays and Sundays. My email address is t_shikukuma@yahoo.co.uk. You can drop me an email, then we'll see from there. Best of luck, and thank you very much for listening to the presentation.